Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Detective. I love that.
Yes.
I saw that movie 5 times in the theater.
Hello there, this is Elora, and I'm a prequel trilogy kid.
And this is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid. And you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of the franchise, from industry insiders to indie artists, from obsessive mythologists to mega collectors, all for one goal, to take the hate out of the debate by focusing on one fan at a time to find out what does Star Wars mean to you. Plus, it's just fun to chat Star Wars.
It is, and today we're doing something a little different. We're midway through season 3.
I don't know. I'm pretty rigid. I don't know if I can handle this.
We're shaking things up. We're counting down to our show's 100th episode that will air in August. Dave, how does it feel to be almost 100 episodes deep in What Does Star Wars Mean to You?
I don't, it seems surreal, quite honestly. It's like every week I'm amazed that an episode gets up. So the fact that we have 100 episodes up, that's impressive. It's impressive. I'm going to go with that. I'm not going to be negative Nancy about this.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, it's impressive. We did good. We did good.
You did the damn thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into our mid-season break. We will be on hiatus over the 4th of July holiday. We thought it'd be fun to take a look back at where we started together in our What Does Star Wars Mean to You journey. Because you had season 1 and then you brought me on in season 2.
To great improvement.
Oh, thank you.
That's true.
I don't take compliments. Dave knows this.
Neither one of us do, really. It's a fun time recording.
But we're always offering them to each other, and then we're like, no.
That's true. We're like 2 waiters who offer each other dessert and refuse the other dessert.
Yes. So we began hosting as a duo. I joined at episode 38, so the beginning of season 2. And before we went live, we did a series of like demo records, which was essentially Dave auditioning me for the show.
It was. I was watching with an intent eye. Does she know how to ask a question?
Which is honestly valid because it's your baby. So one of those demos we really enjoyed a lot. My friend and a former colleague, producer, Josh Huffines, joined us to talk about his Star Wars journey. And I feel like we had a lot of really, he had a lot of really fun, creative perspectives. We had a lot of fun talking to him.
Yeah.
It's an interview you and I reference a lot when we're off mic.
It is.
Strangely. Well, no, not strangely, because it was really fun and it was really awesome. And we really loved Josh's point of view. So we thought it'd be really fun to travel back in time, cue the sound effect, and share one of our very first interviews together. Be kind. This was my 3rd interview ever in life.
As you said, this is a great fun interview. Josh is a fantastic guest with a tremendous point of view. And so let's jump into it.
Yeah. Let's let Josh tell us what Star Wars means to him.
Even though this is in the past, should I say it? I'm going to say it. Luke, we're going to have company.
All right, listeners, our guest today is an accomplished producer, a force to be reckoned with, some might say, on high-stakes productions with Microsoft and Twitch, Gamescom, even the magical realms of Wizards of the Coast. I'm personally lucky to call him a coworker and a friend, so let's give a warm hello there to Josh Huffines. Josh, are you ready to share with the world what Star Wars means to you?
I absolutely am. I pretty much do it every day already.
This has been
a long time coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's start with 5 with the Force, which is a segment that is 5 basic questions that we ask all our guests, and it's kind of think of it as your Star Wars baseline.
Sure.
Okay. Question number 1. Super easy. Which Star Wars movie is your go-to favorite?
Super easy.
I mean, it kind of is. I go to episode 4 more often than not. The original, the OG.
Yeah.
You know,
A New Hope.
I almost always will reach for that if I'm like a sick day movie or something like that. You know, it's a nice self-contained movie that spawned this entire universe. So, you know, it's fun to jump in.
Yeah. I mean, it's the one that started it all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, question number 2. I need a D6 for this. Hold on.
Oh.
Over D6.
For those who can't see, it rolled off of Dave's desk.
But we're still calling it. It's not like the casinos where you get new dice.
Right.
Let's see. What is your favorite spaceship or vehicle?
Oh, man. Oh, in all of Star Wars, you could say.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm always going to. Do I have it here? I have a couple of different small versions of the Millennium Falcon. I've got a Lego version of it. You know, I'll wind up going to bat for that one. It's kind of the iconic one. And when the Force Awakens trailer came out, and you know, it did the dip and then fly up. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So
Yeah, that was a spectacular shot.
No, but it's honest.
Yeah.
It is the classic OG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as much of a character as anyone else in those movies.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it makes me think about, like, you know, people always have like a favorite car from when they were growing up and everything. Like my dad had a 67 Mercury Cougar and my mom had a 69 Mustang Fastback.
93 Volvo 240.
There you go. I don't necessarily have a favorite car from when I grew up, but I definitely have a favorite spaceship. Oh yeah, I've got my my Millennium Falcon bottle opener over there. So yeah, it's within eyesight.
Question number 3. What is your favorite line to quote?
Oh man. I mean, like, how can you not go with "I got a bad feeling about this"? It's either that or like, I'm not religious anymore, but I grew up in the Lutheran church, and so like whenever someone says "May the Force be with you" in Star Wars, I like flash back to when I was a kid, and I just think about the like going to church on Sundays, and I always want to go, "And also with you."
Yes.
So
Yes. Can you do any Star Wars impressions or impersonation?
oh God, no. I wish I could do a Wookiee. It just sounds like a depressed Wookiee, like just a depressed, just a sad Wookiee. But I can't claim that because that's a buddy of mine's gamer tag. So like I can't call myself a sad Wookiee. No.
Oh my gosh.
Here's a good one. Someone told me this is great impersonation for anyone who doesn't do impersonation. And here, I'll just do the impersonation. Hold on. Gonk. It's the Gonk droid. And all you have to do is go, Gonk.
I like it.
Besides the movies, what is your favorite Star Wars content? This can be a TV show, a game, a comic book, a novel.
Oh, that's really, really good question. Because I, you know, being an old school fan, I roll back to when the Timothy Zahn novels were not legends.
Yes.
So there's definitely a bit of that in there. Man, I had a lot of fun with Rogue Squadron on my Nintendo 64. It forced me to get the graphics upgrade for my birthday. Oh man, that was fun, I have to say. And I'm not typically one that likes aerial fighting combat, but I mean, you know, it's X-Wings. You know, how are you going to say no to that, you know?
Exactly.
Well, that was 5 with the Force. I need like closing music for it. Something like dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like the closing
lightsaber,
the closing fanfare. Yeah.
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 R2's like beep boop boop boop.
Yeah.
Yep. Like that. Yeah.
So, what first introduced you to Star Wars, and can you take us through that experience?
I'm sure that there were videotapes, you know, in our house. I know that I watched Star Wars with my folks when I was little bitty. The first movie I saw at a drive-in theater, outside of Jacksonville, Illinois, was Return of the Jedi. I've basically, I don't remember Star Wars not being in my life, which is kind of interesting to think about, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's a time where as a child you're kind of unaware of your surroundings, and then as soon as it enters your life, it kind of takes over. And it's like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So were your folks big fans of the movies, or was it something like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Oh
is
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like when the sequel trilogy came out, it just happened to coincide with Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And Disney kept that. So my mom would fly out from Oklahoma for Christmas to visit, and my wife and I would take my mom to go see the new Star Wars movie. So it was always part of it. Like my dad had, we had the original like VHS with like the really nice like poster art on it, like the
Yeah.
Skywalker with the saber, and then like Leia's just
Right.
kind of like leaning on him, which is kind of inappropriate when you think about it.
Yeah.
And then
Also very 80s.
also very 80s. And then for my birthday one year, I got the original One Last Time, which was the last release on VHS of the non-special edition, and then the following, I think it was when they did the home release. That was my first ever time to have like widescreen VHS at home.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Uh,
If you got the Star Wars special edition in the silver box with Vader's head as opposed to the bronze, it was widescreen. And that was
Yes.
amazing. And it also came out around the same time as one of my favorite records, which is Kid A by Radiohead. So like there was just a lot.
It was a good birthday, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
it was. Yes, for sure.
Living your best life.
Yeah.
Now, when you saw obviously you saw the special edition re-release in theater.
Yeah.
Or when I say obviously, I'm guessing actually.
Yep.
I think that was a fair guess.
And you saw Return of the Jedi in a drive-in when you were a kid.
Uh-huh.
And then, 14 years later, the re-releases came out. Between that time, did you watch it a ton on VHS?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So when you saw it in theaters, as in its kind of original format, not in its like grandeur of 16:9, on a large screen, did it change your reaction to it at all?
I don't know. I'm going to sound like a lot of old school fans and like be like, I didn't necessarily appreciate the stuff that was added back into them, but the bones were still there of the story. I didn't need to see Jabba the Hutt talking to Han in A New Hope. I didn't need to see that. We could go into the Han shot, the fact that Han shot first. And Greedo never did in the originals, and like since now they shoot at the same time, which I really
Endless
did.
debate.
Yeah, it's an endless debate, but for me it was always about like the character arc of Han Solo. That moment kind of like took a little bit of the steam, a little bit of the wind out of his character's sails, right? Like his journey was compromised when they changed it, because he was supposed to be a scoundrel that had a change of heart when he comes back to help at the Battle of Yavin, So
yeah, he was a dangerous ally.
Yeah.
Until he wasn't, and he was, and that didn't take place until the end of Star Wars and kind of the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, when you're like, okay, this guy's a little bit here to stay. And
that's also another line that I like to quote when someone's like, put on a coat, it's cold outside, and I was like, then I'll see you in hell. Right now to go save Luke.
Yeah.
I thought they smelt bad on the outside. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love muttering that one under my breath. It just, anytime I do something tough, like if I have to take a box up the stairs, I put it down and I go, oh, I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Yeah. And I'll also do, it's that one little throwaway line as Leia is storming off, and Luke just turns and goes, I care. So sad and weak, but there are so many times in my life where that was applicable.
Yes.
I think that's true for a lot of folks. Yeah.
Yes. I find there's so many, especially Imperial lines. There's so many lines that are good for corporate America.
Yeah.
I find your lack of faith disturbing when talking
Yes.
about prophets. Yeah.
One of my favorite C-3PO says, I can't recall which film it is off the top of my head, but he says to R2 something along the lines of like, for a non-humanoid, you do a lot of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Like as if
Yeah.
that's your judgment. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll sometimes mutter, you do an awful lot of thinking.
Do an awful lot of thinking. Boring conversation anyway.
Yes. If that
Luke,
could
we're gonna
only-
have company. Yeah.
Yes. If somehow boring conversation anyway could just be a emoji, that would be
Oh, yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. For sure.
So you had, it sounded like you had, and I forget if it was your cousin or brother's Star Wars, some of their Star Wars
Cousin.
toys.
Yeah.
Do you remember what some of your first toys that were for you were? Or were there any ones that you like just coveted when you were a child? You
Oh,
were
I
like,
mean,
I'm
like,
going
I-
against my
Yeah.
Lutheran bringing up and I'm
I-
coveting this.
I always wanted the Millennium Falcon playset. I always wanted the Death Star. I wanted more action figures than I had because I only had a couple.
Mhm.
The only C-3PO I had was the one that you could disassemble and put into Chewbacca's backpack.
Yes, I
Yes.
had that
I
one.
had, yeah, and like always, it was like he's going to miss a leg, he's going to miss an arm. Those were toys that I coveted. Toys that I wish I had back. The 12-inch original 12-inch action figures with the Darth Vader with the cape and the Chewbacca.
Yes.
Like
Oh, right.
like those were things that my folks found at a yard sale and picked up for like $1 a piece. And they were still in their boxes and everything, but like
Oh my
Oh
no.
my God, someone did not
I know.
know.
Yeah, it was people in the small town in Oklahoma we moved to when I was a little kid, and they were clearing out their kids' stuff because I think he went off to University of Oklahoma or something like that, and those were just in the back of the closet,
Wow.
So it was those toys and the GI Joes and the
Oh.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and like all of that stuff.
Did those
They were all
worlds-
well loved and well used.
Yes.
Did those worlds ever interact in playtime? Because I know when I was a kid, my Star Wars and my Polly Pockets, like there was a
Mhm.
lot of crossover. Yeah.
Oh, the GI Joes would frequently have visits from Luke and Han because they were all the same size, and like Kenner even had the same sort of like little hole in the foot, so you could put them on the pegs on the play sets and the toys. Yeah, for sure.
That's
You know?
amazing.
I know Star Wars was kind of always surrounding you,
Mhm.
but say in your later, like your early teen years, into high school, maybe into college, did you maintain your Star Wars fandom?
Oh yeah.
How did it impact your day-to-day life as a slightly older Josh, as a maturing Josh?
I was still watching Star Wars on weekends when I couldn't find anything else on television. Definitely going and checking out the CDs of the scores from my local library when I couldn't find them. Because like I grew up in a town of 4,000 people, and the only place we had to buy music was was Walmart. So-
The only place was the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It was like-
Yeah. Oh, I like honestly, I kind of felt a little like Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
Just it was like
Yes.
a very rural area. The place where I grew up doesn't necessarily look like what you think of as Oklahoma when you picture it, because I grew up in the foothills of the Ozarks in southeastern Oklahoma, so it was
Yeah.
hilly and lots of trees, but still really, really rural. Lots of farms, lots of cattle and chickens and stuff like that. So like I've no moisture farmers, but but it was always kind of a shorthand to connect with people. I always had like a tendency growing up to, because I was always a weird kid. I always kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, and I was always a little bit ahead of the kids in my grade in terms of my movie and music tastes and sense of humor. Like I'd come to school in the fourth grade quoting Saturday Night Live that I had seen over the weekend or whatever, and like my teachers would laugh and everybody else would be like, "You're weird."
You ended up in film. How strange.
I know,
You know?
right? It was always a shorthand. Like closest friends in high school, like always being able to, have that in common.
Now, did you have a big kind of Star Wars contingent in your school, or was it a little more, when I went to school, after the Star Wars craze faded, you were kind of a nerd if you talked about Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
In
that carried
85.
through to, I think, all of our generations. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Probably until about 2014 when that changed.
When it became cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So was it something that you tried to hide? Was it something that was it a freak flag you waved all the time? Nice.
Oh, yeah. I didn't care. I mean, like at a certain point, I was like, "This is I like it. Why do I care if they don't like it?" Which was kind of weird. It actually helped me develop a little bit more of a backbone as I got into like sophomore year of high school and junior year of high school. Whereas before I was super sensitive and would hide it. Then I kind of let a little bit more of that stuff out, and that's how I made a bunch of friends. That's how I got into stuff like the Douglas Adams books and stuff like that. So like it really, and then at that time, like syndication had, even the other Star property, Star Trek, Next Generation, and all of that stuff. So like there were always like a handful of reliable people that were into like sci-fi fantasy that I always felt like accepted by. And then like turns out there were a lot more Star Wars fans than I knew, because I would still talk about it. I'd rock a t-shirt. And like eventually like start striking up conversations when in between classes, when we're waiting for the school bell to ring, or just like when we're running into each other on the weekends, or like football was shockingly, football was huge in Oklahoma. And we would always go to the Friday night football games, and we had a running track around our football stadium. None of us watched the games. We'd all socialize and walk around the running track, and like I could reliably find a couple of friends and a lot of band geeks that were into Star Wars, especially the French horn players, because John Williams, man, he writes some horn pieces.
Yeah, he does.
Oh,
My wife's a French horn player, and she was like, God bless that man for the for the French horn pieces he writes.
Okay, so that's a common thread here then, because you mentioned too that your dad had all of the John Williams records, and that might have been your first introduction to the whole franchise. And I know you're really into music.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, how would you say that the soundtrack of Star Wars has had an impact on you?
Oh, well, like if I have, I can find music for pretty much any sort of mood or life moment that I'm moving through from the body of work that John Williams created for the cinematic films 1 through 9. I remember there was one time, I think this was before that you started at the studio. We had 2 people that were working there that are no longer at the studio, and we all went to lunch together one day. One of them was a really big Star Wars nerd, and the other one, she was like, "Okay, here's the thing, Josh, you're driving. You do the DJ while Josh drives, and then he names where the music piece comes from." And I was like, "Okay, so all right, cool, let's do this." And so like I was able to like pick out random stuff. I was like, "Oh, that's Leia's theme. Oh, that's Han and Leia's theme." And then the way that like Leia's theme is interwoven into the Han and Leia theme, and yeah, so like there's always that. There's always a little bit that will happen in the back of my head.
It's the soundtrack to your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot with the idea of the soundtrack of your life. You had mentioned that with John Williams and the score, kind of any mood you have could be matched back to a piece of music. So if you're feeling really sad, what Star Wars track do you listen?
That's a good question. Ooh.
I think starting with sad was cruel, but
yeah, but I mean, like I'll always like be like, like, and I'm just like staring off into a binary sunset or whatever, like that's what I would do, I think.
Okay, so if you're really tense, what track do you put on?
Ooh.
To stay in your tension or to relieve
Jedi.
it? I feel like that's an important.
It's the music that accompanies the trench run in New Hope. So like
like that non-stop march of oncoming lasers. Yeah. Okay, now you're feeling jubilant. What do you go with?
Oh, probably the medal ceremony at the end of New Hope.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Yep. Really good. And
It is.
my
It just gets you to rally, doesn't it? Yeah.
yes, it does. Now, you had mentioned Star Trek and Douglas Adams'
Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hmm.
Do you feel as though Star Wars kind of opened up that world to you? And
Oh,
what
for sure.
other
Yeah.
things did what other ways did you go with your fandom?
Oh, well, I mean, like it opened a lot of doors to me for like high fantasy, stuff as well. Like I also I am the son of fairly nerdy people. I get more of the sensitive music side from my mom, I think, and from my dad I got Tolkien, so like high fantasy, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So like that,
Yes.
it opened that door. Elora, you'll love this. It opened the door to the Ron Howard joint from George Lucas called Willow. So much so that my childhood dog was named Willow.
Because I was also the product of very nerdy parents. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, so all of those things, like I never like paused to think about, it is kind of a ridiculous movie. I mean, like it just needs to be good enough for me to suspend my disbelief for,
Yes.
the 90 to 120 minutes or now 150 minutes that movie runtimes have stretched to, and like recognizing the hero's journey of it all, the form of storytelling that's been passed down like for millennia across human culture, and just the different ways that we interact with that type of storytelling is important. Just being honest, I love Star Wars. I've been saying this since I was like 17. It can be dumb as hell. It can be so damn dumb, but I love it with my whole heart.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a good way of looking at it because,
Yeah.
again, you sound very well adjusted with it, where it's like you recognize it for what it is
Mhm.
and you accept it and love it. And I think that's great. I saw that you went to film school. Was Star Wars like a contributing factor to that?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, you've got the entire USC contingent of Lucas and Spielberg and Coppola and just like that like group that all just kind of grew out of one specific unit. Finding people that were along that similar wavelength for me was important, because I knew that I wanted to get into some sort of media production. I'm glad that I live in Seattle. Never really thought I'd wind up finding a job and settling here, but I'm glad that I did.
The irony being that you came from a place that was like Tatooine to a place
Mhm.
that literally is nothing but moisture.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. Yeah, there's like I live not too far from Seward Park, so if I want to have a Dagobah experience, I can go out there.
There you
You
go.
know, like
That's
I
the one
could
I'm
put
trying to remember.
I could put Stone in a backpack and carry him around while I'm jumping. But yeah, I mean, like it for sure, like made me go, oh yeah, no, that's something that can be done. And it was also a shorthand to like meet people and meet people of a like mind, a like creative, a similar creative spirit and things
Yeah.
like that. So
Within the creative of Star Wars, what attracted you to film? Like, were you in it for the story? Were you in it for the effects? Did you want to get into it to direct, to produce, to star in, or to just write? I said just write as if like I'm a writer.
Writing is
Yeah,
not the most
yeah.
relevant.
Of course, I was like minimizing writing, but to write, good save, Dave.
So I came into media production as an editor. So there's that, which I think that like also is kind of a George Lucas line. But I think I realized pretty early on in, like helping out, working odd jobs as a freelance on a bunch of independent films and stuff like that, that I'm not necessarily like the main creative voice, but I am someone that can pull a pretty good team together. And then I also have an idea about story structure and how the pieces can fit together. So I think that like starting off as an editor and then moving into a producer role was just
Yep.
kind of natural for me. I'm also a big sports fan, so like I have the appreciation of a team coming together to achieve a goal.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
appreciate the teamwork, and sometimes there are people that are going to stand out. Those are your stars, there are the people that have a drive and a plan to execute. Those are your coaches, your managers, whatever, so
Mhm.
I just see the lineup. Even sports, it's all drama. Even
Yeah.
comedy is drama.
Yeah.
But it's just the different types and different levels of drama that you ascribe to and that you get enrichment from.
Yeah. Excellent. As along the storyline aspect of it.
Mhm.
Well, let me start here with let's jump to the sequel trilogy and The Force Awakens. It's 20, I want to say 14, it could be 2015.
2015.
2015.
Yeah,
I
that sounds
always
right.
think it's 2014. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Because the
Uh,
trailer dropped and everyone was losing their minds.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. And they pushed the summer release date back
Yes.
to Christmas because Harrison Ford broke his leg in the Millennium
Yeah.
Falcon, because it was like, it's been too long, dude, and like the door slammed on him. How dare you stay away from me for so long?
I remember when that happened, they were like, "Oh, this is a kind of a good luck sign because he like injured himself on Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
He injured himself on Empire Strikes Back." And I
Yeah.
was just like, "Yeah, now 6 more months." So
Yeah.
I'm sure he
for
wasn't
sure.
looking at it that way, but yes,
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah.
he was probably livid.
It was probably like, "I just broke my leg and I'm not happy about it."
I gotta
So-
do more Star Wars.
I know.
What was your reaction when you saw The Force Awakens?
I loved it. It was a great reset. I understand the criticisms of it, following similar lines to A New Hope or whatever, but it was also like, you kind of needed to have that reset, especially after such a long time being away from that story and that universe. I think by that time it was a decade since Sith came out, right?
Yeah.
Because that came out, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is like the ultimate downer of a downer. Where to leave it,
That's so true.
and so you kind of needed to, no pun intended, you needed to reawaken that feeling, that
Yeah.
love, and I think it did an excellent job of that. It was a really fun movie from beginning to end, set up some really interesting ideas to explore, but stuck the landing in a really satisfying way, I thought. At least the Empire or the First Order did not build a giant death planet. They just built a giant cannon on a pre-existing planet. So I think that they saved on the overhead costs there. So
They were
like I said, it's dumb, but I love it with my whole heart. But yeah, no, I loved it.
going to Last Jedi, that one has a lot of divisiveness.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I like to ask of creatives and people like you, story people, is do you think the producers or directors, writers of Star Wars have a responsibility to surprise us, even if we as fans don't like every surprise?
I think that from a pure creative and storytelling standpoint, I think their only responsibility is to create and tell an interesting story that people can see themselves in or react to. The fact that it's so divisive means that it did its job and did it really well. I've spoken to Elora about this, about being a sports fan and just seeing how people are losing their minds over Taylor Swift at Chiefs game. Oh, they're showing her on TV, and
Yes.
it's like that's that, and then the whole AI stuff that
Oh, that was awful. Yeah.
all of that awful stuff is why I didn't talk about being a sports fan for so long, because I don't necessarily want to be associated with that type of fandom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Likewise, I don't want to be associated with the type of fandom that is so vociferous and angry about really interesting, novel, and unique concepts that were explored in The Last Jedi.
Mhm.
And these are the same people that would say things like George Lucas, sorry, this triggering word,
Yeah.
George Lucas raped my childhood. I was like, well, he really didn't.
Yeah.
It's his story.
Yes.
we may not like that he put that song and dance number in the beginning at Jabba's palace. That may drive you up a wall like it does me, but it was also he decided he wanted to do that. So, like I
Yeah.
I will sit with it and I'll just be like, okay, choo choo wah chicka woo woo wah chicka woo wee. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just sit here and wait for it to get over. Oh,
I'm with you though. I understand some of the criticism with the sequel trilogy. I see some of the plot holes, like I get it.
yeah.
But I really loved them. Like I had so much fun seeing them in theaters. I didn't even understand how hated they were until I went on the internet. Like it wasn't something that even popped in my head. Like
I want to spend some time with The Last Jedi because it has by far the most and like literally most breathtaking scene in probably any sci-fi film that I've seen where Holdo goes into light space and goes light speed and goes through.
Yeah.
Right.
I just got goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah.
And the way that the sound cuts out, the displays of light, the fact that like theaters had to print out about this far into the movie, the sound will cut out. This is artistic intent. And I'm sitting here getting goosebumps just thinking about the first time I saw it. And literally people, mouths agape, you could hear people gasp and go,
yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
I loved that. I understand why people didn't. I think the people that had problems with The Last Jedi, and this could carry over to Mark Hamill too, that's not the story that they would have told, or necessarily even the story that they would have wanted told. And so they're going to react to that in a way that's, obviously we love this story, this universe. So there's a lot of passion there. And so they're reacting passionately. So I understand people getting frustrated with it, but I honestly I see the total sense in Luke's story in that movie.
Yeah.
The fact that through the flashbacks, you're learning that, he nearly killed Ben,
Nephew.
his nephew while he slept.
Yeah.
And he could feel that darkness rising in him. Right. And so he did exactly what Yoda did. He went and hid himself far away so he wouldn't be found and he wouldn't hurt the people that he cared about most. Just I think about him battling Vader with Palpatine laughing in the background in Jedi, and Palpatine's going off about like his friends going to die and everything, and how that affected him, and he still had that compassion to try and save his father regardless of what was happening. And likewise, he did the same thing with in The Last Jedi, albeit not in physical form, which I think is the most badass use of the Force ever. Period.
So good.
A Force projection. He looks younger. He has his hair cut. He's got the quippy line, "See you around, kid." And then he just becomes one with the Force at the end.
Yeah.
I know that this is kind of a controversial opinion to hold. It's not my go-to movie, but in the three trilogies, it might be my favorite movie, bar none, because it did some really interesting things. It started exploring really interesting things, like Benicio del Toro's character, the arms dealer, and then all of that stuff that was being set up as there's gray. There's no fully good, fully bad. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was being explored there. There were the idea. I really wish that they had not backed down from Rey having no lineage, and I wish they would have stuck with that, because that ending scene with the kid, holding the broomstick like it's a lightsaber. It's
I sob every time. Yeah.
Anybody can possess the Force and use the Force within them.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, because of the vociferous reaction from the fan base,
or a fan base,
a portion of the fan base,
yes,
I feel like it hampered the storytelling for Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And also, oh my God, it had Last Jedi had the best and weirdly sexiest lightsaber battle
Oh yeah, it did. It did.
with the Praetorian Guard
yeah.
after they killed Snoke, and
So good.
like all of the flames just burning the curtains, and it's like, oh, this is hot, and it's really good, and
A lot of chemistry happening.
a lot of chemistry, and it also like really captured the essence of duality
Yeah.
within the
Yes.
Force.
Mhm.
And the fact that people can see and possess both sides of that within themselves, like the fact that Rey went straight to the dark and it scared Luke, but that's not necessarily where she chose to stay, but she interacted with it so as to understand it as a part of the energy that binds and connects all living beings.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Absolutely.
I love it.
I love that yes, all of that. Especially your point about like anyone taking on the Force and anyone has the Force within them. Because I think that so much of the fandom that we're talking about lost sight of the fact that just like all of us, for a whole new generation of kids, this was their first Star Wars trilogy. That's a big deal. Like, to go and see them in the theaters for the first time, like that's a magical experience for those kids. And I think that they delivered. So
and that's
wholeheartedly agree with you.
And that's why I don't ever hold. I don't really hold anything against the prequel trilogy either.
Yeah.
There are parts of it that I don't like.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And things that I would change, but there are parts in it that I absolutely adore. Like the Duel of the Fates, the lightsaber battle with Darth Maul at the end of Phantom. The pod racing scene is amazing. It's incredible.
Classic. Yes.
It is.
I know that a lot of people want to say that the worst Star Wars film ever is Attack of the Clones, but there's a lot in that movie that I love. I love Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Detective. I love that. I saw that movie 5 times in the theater, and every single time that's might be one of my favorite parts of all of Star Wars. When he's like uncovering the clone army and everything like that, it's like, oh man, that speaks to me for some reason.
That was my go-to as a kid. That was the VHS tape that got the most love. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I, by that time I was working. I was in school and I was working, and I was able to buy the widescreen VHS of those. And while waiting for the widescreen DVDs to come out, because those were the release sequence was off, and I wanted to get the widescreen VHS because each one came in a box with a little film frame. A single frame of the film, and it was almost always Watto.
Could have even been creepy C-3PO in naked C-3PO.
Yeah. The one thing I would change about all of Star Wars, R2 doesn't have rockets in his feet.
Oh.
That's that.
Hot take.
That's it. I think I actually said "what the f" when that happened in the theater. I was like, oh, that. Like I said, I just wanted to suspend my disbelief enough to get through the runtime of the movie, and that took me out of it.
Oh no! Yeah,
it is a little hard because you have basically 20 years of R2 without rockets.
100%.
That's fair.
In his feet, and then also, and you're like, why didn't he use those to get out of the thing in Dagobah? Why didn't he use them in the Death Star? Why didn't So it raises a lot of questions that you prefer not to be raised.
That's fair.
So we talked a lot about the different films. What do you think is the best way to introduce the films to a new fan?
Good question.
I've never really had the opportunity to do that. Although I do have my nephews who I would love to introduce them to that maybe this Christmas or something like that. They got to see Back to the Future for the first time this past Christmas, and they loved it.
Oh, wow.
That movie is so good. Near perfect. I will say there's something about the machete order that really kind of sells the structure of the narrative to me. And I know like the originator of the machete order specifically said that you don't need to watch all of Phantom. Just start with the lightsaber duel at the end. And it's like, no, you got to let's watch the whole thing. But like, start with A New Hope, Empire, find out that, spoiler alert, much like Homer Simpson when he's walking out of Empire, that Vader is Luke's dad. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Right? It's crazy.
Spoilers, Josh.
And then you're like, oh my God, this embodiment of evil, the most iconic villain in cinema, just because of the look, and the sonorous voice of James Earl Jones. And he's Luke's dad. And then you learn about Luke. And then at the end, you learn that Luke and Leia are siblings at the end of Sith. And then you go to Jedi, and then it makes sense with there is another Skywalker, Leia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go into you watch Jedi, you watch the redemption of Anakin, and then the continuation of the story with the second trilogy.
Now, talking about those elements you were talking about, the differences between Phantom Menace and the original trilogy. In all of Star Wars, what do you think are the top 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
The first one's gonna the first one's gonna sound so ridiculous, but it's an aesthetic thing. It's all of the paneling that has all of the weird ovals that are stacked on top of each other that light shines through. It's in almost every set, and as soon as you're watching that, you're like, I am in the Star Wars universe. I love it. There's that. There are always going to be scoundrels, and always congregating in a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Shout out to Kate's Pub in Wallingford, because they have that sign at the bar, which I love. And there's always room for redemption, and through redemption, forgiveness, So maybe that's me going back to my Lutheran roots. May the Force be with you, and also with you. I don't know. But yeah.
I think you're onto something there. I think a lot of folks that grew up and fell in love with Star Wars as kids, it's because I think we all kind of felt a little bit like the outcast or the underdog, and so that seeing them win or be the heroes for the day. I think you're absolutely dead on. That's something that's it's fulfilling.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There's a reason why. There's a reason why I go to A New Hope for a good sick day movie. It's awesome. At the end, everything's done. At the end, and you're like, oh, I feel pumped. Yeah, there are all these other movies, but just that one condensed little narrative is so great.
Yes. Along those lines, what is your favorite Star Wars memory?
And I think it can be one of two things. So my dad was a recycled fiber engineer for Weyerhaeuser. And he worked at the paper mill that they owned in Valiant, Oklahoma, until they sold it off to International Paper, and he worked there until he passed away. And so they would bring in trucks of recycled materials, train loads of recycled materials. A lot of those are remainders from bookstores. And we know what remainders are, where they tear the cover off the book and send them back to the publisher.
Oh, okay.
Well, those get sent on for recycling. One of the things that they could do was if they saw something they wanted, they could pull it out, bring it home, because it was just a bunch of stacks of books. And so I got the novelizations of the original trilogy minus the front cover, but it was the original trilogy novelizations, and I had those. So that was a really good memory.
Oh, that's a great one.
Do you still have them?
Ooh, do I?
Because what a special thing. Yeah.
I have the Timothy Zahn books, so the Heir to the Empire series over there. I don't. I think that the original trilogy stuff was stuff that was packed up at my dad's house.
Oh, it was part of the robbery, maybe. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Should we try to solve this cold case?
I know. I'm a Swiftie. I can maybe get the rest of the Swiftie fandom. We all know that they can do everything. Everyone tracked down Josh's old action figures and the books his dad brought him.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love that almost as much as I love the Viewmaster with the slides that I got from pre-ordering my vinyl copy of Taylor's version of 1989. True story. I think the second one is my best friend and I going to a Cinemark theater in Plano, Texas, skipping school, getting down to the Dallas area, which was 3.5 hours away, to wait in line to buy tickets to the Phantom Menace when they went on sale the week before the movie came out. And I had my black Phantom Menace T-shirt on. It said Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. It had like the Star Wars logo stitched in metallic silver thread on the sleeve. There were people driving around blasting the Star Wars fanfare in the parking lot, and just like that anticipation of we're going to see new Star Wars. That's going to be our first time to see new Star Wars.
A true blockbuster.
Yeah, and
in every sense of the word.
And just like the anticipation of having to get back down there to watch the movie the next week. I remember staying up the night before, thinking about how there were people in my hometown that were at the local theater that was in between Broken Bow and Idabel, Oklahoma, the McCurtain County Cinema. And I was like, they're watching this movie. They know what's happening. They're sitting in the theater right now. They see Star Wars real big in a horn blast, and it's going to the title crawl. Oh, man, I wonder what it's all about. And then going the next day and reading about Trade Federation blockades. I was like, wait, what?
Well, let me ask you this, because you're talking about the fanfare, the people, the crowds, the people playing music and stuff. You lived both through the premiere of Phantom Menace and The Force Awakens. Do you think they're comparable? Do you think the hype was equal for each other? Was there one that kind of stood out?
I don't know.
For you?
Taco Bell didn't have pogs of Mace Windu for this one. So like, I mean, like they like. I think that there was trepidation going into the sequel trilogy, especially because it was a Disney property at that point. Lucas wasn't involved, but I remember being on Twitter and seeing Patton Oswalt's reaction to it, because he got an invite to the premiere and he was like, "JJ did it. He freaking did it." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait until tomorrow night."
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, so it was a little bit of no matter what happened, the prequel trilogy was going to be somewhat of a letdown and a disappointment because of the buildup, because of the massive marketing campaign, everything that went into it. People watching it when they're in their late teens and 20s and 30s, and not remembering that essentially it was a sci-fi parable story that was like, in a lot of ways aimed at kids. Yeah,
1000%.
and I think that there was trepidation leading into the sequel trilogy, but a greater sense of relief once the Force Awakens was released and was as good as it was and as fun as it was.
Here's my last question for you, Josh. We've talked about your kind of Star Wars journey from near beginnings to now, your love of The Last Jedi, your love of the Timothy Zahn books, the way you found that quick connection with people through Star Wars, a little bit of how it inspired you to go to film school. How would you answer the question, what does Star Wars mean to you?
Oddly enough, it means everything to me. It really does. It like there's such a heavy portion of my life that's tied up in Star Wars and thinking about it and looking forward to playing like the new massive multiplayer online game that comes out on Xbox next year or whatever. Like, it's like when people would ask you what your favorite movie is, and I would always be like, I don't know, it changes all the time. Sometimes it's Amadeus, sometimes it's this, it's that. And our former coworker, I was like, man, shut up. Your favorite movie is Star Wars. I was like, what? He was like, it is. You talk about it all the time. You know all the dialogue. You love that movie, and you're like an encyclopedia when it comes to it. That's your favorite movie. It's like, well, shit, you're right. Dang, huh? Yeah, it really does.
I like how he called the whole franchise a movie.
Oh yeah,
because that's
100%. I mean, like it kind of it's a universe, right? It's a universe, and it just like there's something about the lived-in aesthetics and everything that's just like it hits different, it just means everything to me. It was my window into a wider world of like-minded people, maybe people who aren't like-minded, but you interact with them and learn about them, and like having that openness and having it come out of something where there were humans and aliens and droids and machine intelligences interacting with each other all the time, and like I don't know, I just it's great. It's just like it's a very large part of my heart.
Yes,
Great answer.
and I think it's amazing how, and I never thought about it until just now, that your favorite movie could be kind of anything, but the part of your heart is Star Wars, and it's not about a single movie or single storyline. It's the universe that you're talking about. That's really that's something.
I love it.
It's amazing. Josh, thank you so much.
This was
Thank
so
you for
fun.
inviting me on. It was a lot of fun. It was really a ton of fun.
Oh, good.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Where can people find you? I always ask.
Oh, I'm on X. I don't like calling it that. Twitter.
I still call it Twitter.
I still call it Twitter.
At Joshua_Huffines. At Huffines on Instagram. I'm Unpainted Huff on PlayStation Network, and I'm Okie Huffines on Xbox.
There you go.
Excellent. Well, Josh, thank you so much for joining us. May the Force be with you.
And also with you.
And that's what Star Wars means to us this week.
Yeah. Dave, what do you feel like we've learned since the days of our demo recording?
You know, I think we've learned that
as a duo.
That doing this over Zoom is really tough, but we have been able to get a great chemistry, I think, of knowing who's going to ask a question next. We jump in on top of each other all the time, but a lot of times, like you pick right up where I let off and vice versa, and I think that's a great kind of not banter, but
like a short
chemistry.
Yes, or chemistry.
Yes. And that has been really tremendous to feel growth in.
Yeah, I agree. Because I also I'm a very overeager, very Leslie Knope kind of excited person. So I feel like there was a lot of conversations in our first season together where I was like, I need to shut the hell up and let you talk. I get so excited to say things and or someone will say something that is fun. And I'll be like, oh my God, what about this? So I agree. I feel like we've really developed a good chemistry in shorthand. And I also, for me personally, I love that I feel like I've gotten better. I don't know if the audience agrees with this, but I feel like I've gotten really good at, you and I do a lot of research on our guests and we craft an interview and we always kind of we take time to take in the things that they've created and we want to have a really thoughtful discussion. But oftentimes our interviews kind of go off the rails and not in a bad way. We go where the conversation flows, where the guest seems to kind of be most interested and we follow that. And I feel like we've gotten really good at not feeling confined to where we thought an interview should go.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah, no, that's really tough to kind of just let go of the feeling I need to control this. At the same time, I also think we've gotten better at guiding the interview a little bit and seeing what it is that we're interested in and trying to bring that out. And hopefully what we're interested in is something the listeners are also interested in.
So far, I would say that's true. We have people returning weekly, which is amazing because I hear the sound of my own voice and I'm like, why is anyone listening to this show? No, I'm kidding.
That's everything I do. I walk outside the door and I'm like, why does this day greet me? I don't even understand it.
Well, thanks for coming with us on our look back, where we were to where we are journey. Who do we have next week?
So next week, we have Tom Holler, who is the senior editor at Random House Publishing. He's worked with Timothy Zahn, Rebecca Roanhorse, Delilah S. Dawson, Kevin Scott, Christy Golden, and Madeline Rue, and just a ton of other people because he works on licensed properties that include Magic the Gathering, World of Warcraft, and of course, Star Wars. He's done edited a bunch of Star Wars books. One of my favorites, what is it called? Mask of Fear, which we talk a lot about.
The Certain Point of View.
From a certain point of view, yes. And also the Revenge of the Sith special edition book that's coming out in October. And we talk about that as well. He's a really great guy. fun guest, love Star Wars, and I honestly can't wait for you guys to hear it. So until then, may the Force be with you.
And with you. This is so off topic, and we're totally going to cut this out, but I do have to ask. Do you watch Parks and Rec? Yeah. Okay, Patton Oswalt. Guest star episode where he filibusters Star Wars.
And he starts bringing in the Infinity Stones and tying it into the Marvel universe. It's so good. And all of that completely ad-libbed. Like Amy Poehler had no idea where he was going with that, and they just let it roll. Oh, it's so good.
There's an outtake that's like 15 minutes long or something.
I
of course, we loved
could not love that more. It was so good.
Isn't that the one where he talks about Boba Fett escaping from the Sarlacc pit? and literally they do that in Boba Fett the show.
Yeah. The Book of Boba Fett. The soft reboot of The Mandalorian. I will say this, though, because I know that we're coming up on time and everything. I will say I cannot wait for the second season of Andor. That is not only some of the best Star Wars, but it's some of the best hard science fiction I've seen.
Yes.
I love that show. And Rogue One was an amazing movie. I was showing Elora this when we were on a call yesterday because we were putting the final touches on a proposal for a new project, and we were on with some of our coworkers putting the deck together, and I was like, conversation turned to tonight in recording the podcast, and I was like, well, I'm gonna show you, these are the two posters that I have up on my wall, and it's the two-sided cinematic poster that you put in a light box. And it's of Rogue One, and it's of The Last Jedi. And then I have a modern art take of A New Hope. That was a housewarming present from a former coworker when I bought the house. And then, I have a couple of Fromes, the ones that have the colored lines that represent one scene of the movie. It's And I have right behind my couch downstairs, I have Empire, and right next to my record collection, I have A New Hope. So I've got to get Jedi in there somewhere. So,
yeah. It feels like you're, letting Jedi down. I don't want to be like a downer or anything, but maybe not a real fan.
Oh, no,
no, that's not true.
Oh, that's funny.
That's not true.
All right.
Hi, this is Dave. And before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.